Got the next piece of the puzzle for this 400. Got a gasket kit that I found on Amazon for like 14 bucks. It's a top and bottom end gasket kit, so not sure how well built this gasket kit is and the quality of it, so we'll find out Saturday. Also got the cam chain in. It's just a cheap Amazon one too. I didn't go with name brand just because this squad's only 500 bucks and don't want to spend too much money on it. It was only 25 bucks for this, so it's pretty cool. Just replaced the rear brake here. Here's the old one. Not exactly sure what was wrong with it. Oh goodness, it's leaking out. I guess there's fluid still in it. Drain the fluid out before you tip it upside down all over yourself. That would be advised if you guys ever change the oil, or I don't know why I can't talk, the brake caliper. If you ever change the brake caliper, make sure all the brake fluid is out of it before you tip it over onto yourself. But this one wouldn't hold any brake fluid, and it seems pretty cheap. Probably an aftermarket one, just like this one. Bought this one on eBay for $21, so we'll see how it holds up. Just tightening it right now, getting the bolts on. I'll update you guys in a few. So this new caliper came with its own Banjo bolt, so I'm going to go ahead and take the old Banjo bolt off of the brake line and use the new one that came with it. They almost look identical, color and everything, so I would assume this is probably the same exact brand that this is. I don't think it's a factory rear caliper. Noticing a couple differences here in these Banjo bolts. This is the old one, and if you can see, the hole seems to be a lot bigger in diameter than the new one. I'm gonna try out this new one and see if it works. If it doesn't, we will put the old one back on. See, the hole in the old one actually is smaller on the end of the Banjo bolt versus this one. So we'll try the new one out and see what happens. And to really replace a rear brake, all you have to do is take off the two 12mm bolts, this one and this one, and then literally just pull the caliper right off. If you take the Banjo bolt out first, you can pump the brake and drain all the fluid into a container, and then just pop the Banjo bolt back on. Make sure you put these washers, one on the outside like that, and then the other on this side. It's hard to do one-handed, so I'll show you guys after it's back on. And just like that, the rear brake has been changed out. Once you replace the rear brake, you need to now make sure there's no air in the line, and in order to do that, you need to fill up the reservoir with brake fluid and then pump the brake a couple times, crack this bleeder valve open until it spurts out. You really need something to connect to it so that you don't get brake fluid all over your stuff. If you do, I mean, you can just wipe it off, but if you don't want it all over your new brake equipment, then just get a small hose and connect it to it and pour it into your little container. Pump it a couple times, crack it, pump it a couple times, crack it. Make sure the reservoir up here does not empty out all the way, and you should be good to go. Just like that, after about 5 minutes of working it, no air in the line, and brakes work perfectly. As you can see, the tires spin freely right now, and then if I push on the brake, can't move them at all. So not too shabby for a $20 eBay brake. Also, as a reminder, make sure you use .4 or whatever is specified for your vehicle or ATV or whatever you're trying to change. And 99% of the time, the top of the cap of the brake fluid reservoir is going to have the correct .4, .3, .5, whatever brake fluid you run, it'll have the correct number on here. Well, it's finally Saturday. I'm gonna start putting this stuff back on the quad today. Gonna get the piston back on first. Gonna attempt to do that. Don't have a tripod for this camera, so I'm not gonna really be able to record it. I might try setting the camera up to see if I can get some footage of that, but I don't know if I'll be able to. My buddy's supposed to be here sometime today to help me with some of this stuff, so we'll see how that goes. Alright, let's get to it. Here's the two pistons side by side. Obviously the new clean one and the old one. It's pretty easy getting this off. You just have to take the retaining pin out of the side with this little hole here. You get a little pick and slide the pin around until the gap is right here on this hole. You can get a pin right underneath it and pull it and it pops right out. Just be careful because it'll fly through your garage or your shop, whatever you're using. It looks pretty much the same, so we'll attempt to put it in, see how that goes. Also, I'm sure you noticed the in right there. That's for intake, so it goes towards the back of the quad. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that or heard that before, so just make sure this side is facing the back of the quad. Everything I've read so far says get one of the retaining pins in first. Then you can slide the little, whatever that is, that metal piece through, and then so it stops on the other side. Then you can put your other retaining pin in. And make sure you have something plugging up your hole here to your inside case, motor, whatever it is, because you do not want something dropping in there. And just like that, the new piston is in. The in is facing towards the back where the intake side is, and we're done with that step. Okay, so to take off your clutch over here, just to pull it off after you take your case off, you just have to take out these 5 10mm bolts with the springs. Just be careful because sometimes they can spring off. Then you just take this cover off. Then you have to crack this stake nut. So you can either bend that little dip back or just do what I did and get a 27mm socket, which if you don't have one, I don't have one, a 1 1/16 socket will fit on that stake nut. And you just use this 1/2" impact or any kind of impact and torque it till it comes off, and it'll spin right off eventually. And then you can slide the whole clutch assembly, clutch basket out. And then it gives you access to everything in here. Which I'm changing out the cam chain, which goes right back there. And so in order to do that, you got to pull off the in order to do that, you have to pull off the oil pump gear and then just set that off to the side. And then you can do another bolt, which all this stuff is loose because I was previously in here. So this will just slide off. Well, you have to use an impact to get it off. Set it to the side. This whole thing comes out. And try not to lose any of the washers. There's washers on these things. Do not lose them. Keep them in the order that they go in. Most of the time they have markings on them that say out, but if they don't, just try to keep them in the same order. Well, as you can see, that gear actually has a out mark. And then the timing chain goes right here. So I'm gonna get the new timing chain out, wrap it around this, stuff it through here, right up here. Sorry, the camera's so shaky. Wrap the timing chain around this, stuff it through this hole, and then kind of wire it to the frame right here so it doesn't fall back in. And then I'm going to replace this timing chain guide because I got a new one. I don't think this four-wheeler's ever been opened up. It's a 2002, so it's probably has some use. This is the bolt, the 10mm bolt for that screen that I was talking about in the first video I put out. So you just take that bolt out and you can pull the screen right out with these two tabs. And it's just a small metal screen, mesh screen thing, and you just spray it out with some brake cleaner. Alright, next step I'm going to replace this timing chain guide.